So everyone, first, just welcome. We are so excited you're here today for the Weather Ready Research Instrument and Data Publication Training Session. And on behalf of the Natural Hazard Center, the Converge facility, Design Safe, as well as NOAA, we wanted to send a special welcome to all of the Research Award recipients and tell you thank you for being here today. And when we say we are excited that you are here today, we really, really mean it. We are both excited because part of our purpose today is to learn more about publishing instruments, protocols, data, and the breakthroughs that are happening in that realm. But we are also so excited because in parallel, thanks to NOAA, we're also working together to build a weather-ready research community. And you're going to get to hear from Gina more about that shortly. And so just thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the time, effort, and care that you all put into your applications for the research awards. And thank you for the work that you put in advance of this meeting, because as you will learn today during this training session, everything you have been doing in preparation for today, from the proposal to the publication template, all of that is leading toward the data curation and data publication outcome that we're moving toward with this effort. And so I just want to begin on behalf of Converge and Design Safe with a brief overview and background in terms of a journey, a real journey that brought us here together today. And so this journey actually began almost 3 years ago to the date when Ellen Rathje, who is a professor of engineering and is the principal investigator of the Design Safe facility, she and I had a call again in June of 2018. And during that call, what we talked about is Design Safe had been launched for a couple of years at that point. They had very successfully been bringing in the engineering community in terms of facilitating data curation and data publication. But to date, the social science, hazards and disaster research community didn't yet have that connection to the Design Safe cyber infrastructure. And so during that call, at that point, I was writing the Converge grant proposal for the National Science Foundation. And one of the tasks in that proposal was about bringing social science and engineering and interdisciplinary research together to really work with Design Safe, which is at the forefront of this field in terms of moving these efforts forward. And so thankfully, Ellen, with her usual enthusiasm and vision, immediately said yes to the partnership. And so that launched this 2-year journey where the Design Safe team soon, within a matter of months, in October of 18, they traveled to Boulder, Colorado. And so you can see Tim and Maria and Craig, all of whom you're going to meet today, who are just absolutely extraordinary and you will be learning from and working with over these coming months. And Maria and Tim and Craig, they showed up in Boulder and they put all of us to work. And so I know Dave Hondula's on the call, Jennifer Tobin, Elena Sutley. They were all part of this effort in October 2018, where we drew data models. We talked to them about how social scientists and interdisciplinary researchers gather and collect data. And then from that, the Design Safe team then began building out the social science and interdisciplinary data model that is now allowing us to publish our instruments, protocols, and data, which you're going to see today through a demonstration. Then in July of 2019, the Design Safe team traveled to Colorado again for the Natural Hazards Workshop, our last in-person one in July of 2019. And they actually tested the data model with over 80 social scientists, urban planners, public health and medicine researchers, and engineers. And they got feedback from this large cross-section of our research community to make sure that that data model was robust. and appropriate for all of us to be able to publish the diverse array of research materials that we're going to be talking about today. Then in May of 2020, DesignSafe released this really groundbreaking field research data model for social science and interdisciplinary teams. In the months that followed the release of that data model, so in October of 2020, last year, when we were all moved online, we hosted 2 publisher data events that brought together about 40 social scientists as well as interdisciplinary researchers to start learning about these new capabilities with DesignSafe and in partnership with Converge. And in the aftermath of those training sessions since then, we now have 10 data ambassadors. Lauren Clay, I know, is on the phone today as one of our inaugural persons who went through the training and was one of the first people to publish on social scientists to publish on DesignSafe. And so we now have 10 data ambassadors who've gone through the full training with DesignSafe and have actually published instruments, protocols, and data via DesignSafe. And we've been pointing you, all of you, to these amazing data ambassadors and their exemplary models because they're helping us to show the way in terms of what DesignSafe is capable of for helping our community to get our materials up and shareable. And so that's a little background. I just want to review the objectives for today because again, this 3 hours is going to be action-packed. It's going to go quickly. And so what are we trying to accomplish when we're here together today? So first and foremost, we're going to learn from the experts at DesignSafe about these DesignSafe and Converge data capabilities for the social sciences as well as for interdisciplinary research. We're also going to talk about and discuss why publishing and sharing data and instruments is so important. Then we're going to shortly hear from NOAA Social Science Leadership, so from Gina, about this commitment, where it came from related to instrument and data publication and the role these activities are going to play in helping to build this weather-ready research community. We're going to meet the other Weather Ready Research Award recipients and keep building this community. And we're going to learn more about how to ethically publish our data and our instruments and move forward with receiving a permanent digital object identifier for your data and instruments. And then finally, we're trying to move you toward fulfilling your award commitments that were part of the proposal you wrote and received funding for, and then eventually to become Converge data ambassadors. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, we want to just spend a minute on the big why. Why do we want to do all of this? And so I'm going to now share a wonderful 1-minute video from DesignSafe that gets at why curating your data and publishing your data in instruments is so important and can actually save you a lot of time in the long run. And so I'm going to share that video now.
Dear Vasant, I hope the new job is going well. I have good news. The reviews for our paper are back, and we just have to update figures 6, 8, and 10 with the latest data. Can you do that within the next week or 2?
Well, Peter Lee has those data sets. I don't know what those data are.
Can we ask Peter then? Do you have his contact info?
He's in China.
I know, but do you have contact info?
No.
Do you know where the data might be? Or where he left his lab notebook with all the metadata?
The meta what?
Metadata. The labels for all the columns of data. The units for all the data. That kind of thing.
Oh, well, maybe the wind tunnel computer? Maybe the portable hard drives? Maybe that white box in the grad student office closet? Maybe the Google Drive project folder.
So that gets at the logistical and practical help that we hope Design Safe and their capabilities are going to provide for everyone in this regard. But we also want to talk more about, let's see, sorry, I'll get back down to this slideshow. We also just want to say a few words here about the bigger why in terms of calls that have been happening in our field for decades, really, in terms of moving forward with data sharing and publication. And so NSF report that was published in 2016 really captured in many ways the importance of why we're doing what we're doing today and why we're so grateful that you're on this journey with us. And so one of the things this report said was that for the past 3 decades, leaders of the scientific community have called for sharing access to scientific data. And the main rationales for data sharing include to reproduce or verify research, to make the results of publicly funded research available to the public, to enable others to ask new questions of extant data, to advance the state of research and innovation, and important to note that increasingly funding agencies around the world, as well as we should say journal publications, are requiring investigators to share data created with public support. And so as these calls grow louder and intensify, again, we are so excited that you all are at the forefront of helping to make this change possible. And so with that, I am now going to turn this over to Gina, and I really want to acknowledge that Gina from the start has been so visionary in this regard and so excited about these possibilities. And so now we're going to hear a few words from Gina of welcome and about the background on NOAA's support for this effort that has made this possible for all of you today. And so Gina, over to you.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction and such a wonderful welcome to all of these new data ambassadors, Weather Ready Nation ambassadors at that here, research ambassadors. This is so exciting. And you know, it's so lovely to hear the Converge Design Safe CI timeline, because it reminds me how wonderful and almost divine intervention in some capacities that NOAA's timeline of really understanding the value of data inserts into this timeline so well. And I'm glad we were offset, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. In September of 2019, the NOAA Weather Program Office Social Science Program held a workshop that we titled the Social Science Research to Operations Workshop. R2O, Research to Operations, is something that's very important to NOAA, congressionally mandated even. So we had ideas and visions that we were going to focus on. What does R2O look like? How do we transfer research into application within, say, the National Weather Service? And we started having meetings to think about what our agenda would look like. And we learned a whole heck of a lot, and it all related to data. Data we didn't have, data we had that we didn't know where it was, data that we needed that we didn't know whether we had or whether we need to have. We had all these questions surrounding data, and it came down to this. NOAA is very good with physical science data. Broadly, that is our mission, right? Our mission is to save lives, protect property, and enhance the national economy surrounding oceanic, atmospheric, and related interdisciplinary sciences, predominantly in the physical sciences. So our infrastructure in our organization supports data management of physical science data, collection of physical science data, satellites, if you will, radar, other types of very important observations. And because we're very good at that infrastructure, our policy infrastructure was also supporting that. There were these expectations then that social science would be no different, that we could just plug and play into this physical science infrastructure. And when we started finding out that there were these assumptions that our data worked the same way, satellites don't talk back, people do, right? You have to clean satellite data, you need to clean human data, but how you do that, how you treat that data is different. How you collect that data is inherently different. A person collected data about humans. Therefore, there's a sense of ownership, ethical standards, all of these things that, well, are unique to social science human data as compared to our physical science counterparts and infrastructure that we have in NOAA. So the outcome of this workshop, and if I may, I'm going to look just at a couple of my notes so I can make sure I get this just right. What we sort of walked away out of this workshop is it revealed that NOAA's organizational structure primarily supports the collection, management, and archival of physical science data. And without such similar infrastructure for social science, NOAA cannot yet measure mission critical factors such as performance metrics, impact, and change. It's great that we've made these physical science changes. How do we know if it saved lives? How do we know if it protected property? How do we know that it enhanced the national economy? So we turned these challenges into an opportunity. We decided that it illuminates an opportunity to build infrastructure for social science data collection, management, and archival, which includes prioritizing things like collecting baseline and longitudinal data over time, encouraging data archival, and creating metadata. And we can't do it alone. There's no way NOAA can do all of this on our own, and we decided to reach out to the National Science Foundation. We have unique partnerships that we can create called interagency transfers. The Natural Hazard Center has an award with the National Science Foundation. Therefore, through this interagency mechanism, decided to partner with the Natural Hazard Center to encourage these quick response opportunities, not only to collect perishable data, but also to more broadly encourage publication of data and their associated instruments. And so this is one such partnership that we are just delighted to have created over the last couple years. And again, the timing is just, I get goosebumps when I look at Lori's timeline and how beautiful it is that this sort of happened, and NOAA sort of came to our own realization as an organization that we need to work on this too, and we can't do it alone. We need public, private, and academic partnerships. And the partnership with the Natural Hazard Center, with the Converge community, with the Design Safe CI, with the data ambassadors, we just couldn't be more thrilled to be yet another partner and sort of to go along in this journey with you. So I just want to say thank you all for responding to those calls. We couldn't be more excited to see what you have. And that mission that Lori shared about the value of sharing data. Not only is it giving more public access to data and data sharing, but it's also allowing NOAA to ask questions of what is the value of some of our efforts? And part of understanding the value of some of our efforts is also valuing what you all are doing. So I want you to know that NOAA shares the vision that Lori communicated today, that we see you all as part now of the NOAA family. So thank you for that. And thank you for going through this process. And we will learn with you. My team is on. I do have one small conflict, I'm sorry, at 2 p.m., but my team will be on. I've got to kind of hop in and out, but I will be back. And I am signed up. I will be learning with you. So with that, Lori, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gina. And thank you to Mickey and Castle for being on here, and just for all of the leadership that you've shown for the social science community. And really, as you started out with talking about the need for moving research to operations. And I think that was something that's come through so clearly in all of the proposals that we've received, is just this real commitment to making sure that the research is actionable and that it's usable. And so just thank you, Gina, for being here amidst another busy day. And thank you for those words of welcome. And so we are going to very soon, there are 3 extraordinary Design Safe people on here, as you know, Maria, Craig, and Tim Cockerell, who we're going to meet and hear from very soon. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to pivot so the NOAA Natural Hazard Center and Design Safe teams can actually hear from all of you. And so, as you know, we've set aside 2 minutes for the team lead or whoever the representative is for each team, because what we want to do now is to hear from all of you, the research award recipients. And so everybody's going to have 2 minutes. And at the end of 2 minutes, I'm going to start waving my hands. And so keep an eye on me, because we have to say on time with this, but during your 2 minutes, it's amazing how much you can share in 2 minutes. During your 2 minutes, we're going to ask the team lead, give everybody on the call a sense of what is it that you're going to be publishing with Design Safe. What is your goal? So is it an instrument? Is it a protocol? Is it data? Is it all three? Is it something else? So letting people know what it is that you're doing, giving a sense of that. And of course, this is also the time if you have any questions that you just want to bring into the room or comments during your 2 minutes, they're all yours. And so Eric Best, a big weight is now falling on your shoulders to role model for everyone exactly how this is going to be done. And so I'm getting out my timer. And Eric, would you come off of mute and would you please go ahead with the first introduction?
Yep, absolutely. I'll try not to get yanked off the stage. I'm Eric Best. I'm an assistant professor of Homeland Security and Public Policy at Penn State's Public Affairs School in the capital of Harrisburg. I'm super excited to be here. I'm going to contribute an instrument about using LiDAR data for three-dimensional flood projections. I was super excited that there's another group from Boise State that's doing a survey about trouble using LiDAR projections. So I'm hoping that over the course of this year, I can actually build off of what you found and help make that a little easier. But you know, LiDAR has been treated for a long time kind of like a dark art, and it's getting very easy to use. A lot of states have the data. You can incorporate it with things like the NOAA SLOSH model and make very easy, pretty accurate 3D projections now in ways that can usually avoid insulting engineers. And so I'm going to try and do that for this project. So thanks for having me. I'm thrilled and look forward to meeting everybody.
Thank you, Eric, very much. And thank you for already building those webs of connection. Next on our list is Lauren Clay. And I actually don't see Lauren on here, but Lauren has already gone through this training session, has already published numerous things with Design Safe, as Maria can attest. And we actually even call Lauren Clay our super user. And so if you go to the Converge Data Ambassadors page, you will see many of the things that Lauren has already published up there. So we're just going to reclaim her. And Jen said that Lauren emailed and had card trouble, and so she's getting towed. And so, but again, Lauren is fabulous. Check out what she's already published as a real exemplar. And so we will, and thanks Jen for that. And so we will skip over Lauren, and next we're going to go to Emma French and team.
Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I imagine people are all over. My name is Emma French. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Urban Planning at UCLA. Very excited to be here. This is so fun, so welcoming, very exciting. So I will just speak very briefly about the project that we are sharing data and a data protocol about. Two of the project leads are also on the call, David Hondula and Kelly Turner. Kelly was the visionary behind the project, and I got to help with a lot of the data collection and sort of the minutia. So the project that we have been working on that we're excited to share is around how the prevalence and the nature of urban heat management in municipal planning documents throughout the United States in particular. So we have collected 175 plans that have been adopted at the city and the county scale in a couple of cases. So these are plans that have specific environmental goals. And what we did was we searched for heat relevant clauses in these plans and then coded them to sort of get an understanding of how heat is being framed by municipalities, what sorts of interventions they're proposing and talking about, the extent to which they're discussing equity and social justice, and the data that they're using. So we have about 6,000 different data pieces. So we're going to be sharing the data and also our data collection and data sort of management protocol. And yeah, David and Kelly, if you want to share anything else, please do.
No, that was a fantastic overview. And I just want to say Emma did heroic work. Anyone who's done content analysis knows that reading hundreds of documents for thousands of clauses is tedious work, and she was meticulous about it. So I'm really confident in this data set, and largely because of her.
Thank you, Emma, Kelly, and David. We're really excited to hear about this. So thank you so much. And now we are going to bounce over to Sergio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sergio Garcia. I'm a PhD student at University of Maryland. My team is also formed with Nilanjana Ghosh, Master of Science students also at the School of Engineering at the University of Maryland, and Professor Michelle Bensi, who's also my research advisor here at the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the University of Maryland. I'm very happy to be here, very excited to start working and to meet everyone, and thank you to all the organizers. So I'm going to briefly talk about project. Our project basically consists on publishing the data and data instruments that we will generate by leveraging newspapers to generate leveraging newspapers to create a database that will reflect the impact to disasters. It is very common that in many countries from the global south, access and to data and support to collect the data of the impact of disasters is often not continuously supported. So our instrument will try to agilize to facilitate the collection of data from newspapers. So yeah, I think I'll briefly mention that, and I don't know if my other team members will also like to talk a little bit about it. But I think the data collection protocol will be implemented for the periods from 2015 to 2021, particularly focusing in the countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sergio, and thank you, Michelle and Nilanjana, for being here today. And now we're going to move from Maryland to Texas. So Jen Henderson, you are next up.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here. I'm Jen Henderson from Texas Tech University in Lubbock, which sits on the ancestral homelands of the Comanche and the Apache. Just wanted to acknowledge them. And I'm here also with my colleague, Eric Nielsen, who's at Texas A&M, and I will throw it to him shortly. We are excited to be able to post data that we collected as part of a NOAA-funded grant, probably back in 2018. We've been working on this problem of overlapping hazards, especially tornado and flash flood hazards, since, well, Eric first created this visibility in his dissertation. And so we've been working on this for several years. And we had the opportunity to research these overlapping compound hazards in landfalling tropical cyclones, especially specifically Hurricanes Harvey and Hurricanes Florence. And we have 3 data sets, well, 2 data sets and 1 instrument and potential data set that we'd like to contribute to Design Safe. The first is Twitter data collected for both hurricanes that really looks at the social and physical. We're trying to examine the social and physical processes, but we wanted to capture any users who talked about these overlapping wind and water hazards throughout the life cycle of the hurricane, so about 10 days. So we have all the users who mention it, both experts and publics for both of those. And then we also have, we collected and interviewed data from forecasters who were from the areas that were impacted by the hurricanes. We wanted to contribute the interview protocol at this point and we're so glad to see Noah on the call because we'd love to talk to them and you all about how best to de-identify data that's tricky to de-identify because there's such a small population and well-known and can be sleuthed out by intrepid forecasters and researchers in our community. So those are the two data sets. And the third one is a data set that Eric's been collecting for years before that, that has those overlapping warnings. And I'll hand it over to him to talk about that.
Yeah, so it's
Eric, 30 seconds.
okay, I'll be quick.
Thank
So basically what it is it's going back to 2008, a data set of anytime you've had a tornado and flash flooding warning issued within a certain time frame over the same area. So it serves as kind of a jumping off point for any sort of urban planning research, hydrology, civil, engineering, insurance standpoint that we have used several times to go towards, collecting social science data.
Thank you, Jen and Eric. And now we're going to move over to David Handula.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you all and greetings from Arizona. I'm going to try to show a picture here. Let's see if this works. So hopefully you're seeing a picture of some engineers in the city of Phoenix painting a parking lot with this reflective coating. And that is the basis for the data publication that I'll be participating with us today. We do a lot of work here at ASU related to extreme heat. And the idea of painting the roads white or a light color is one of the heat mitigation strategies that different city governments are employing. Los Angeles has a notable project, as does Phoenix. And our role in the project was to ask what impact this treatment had of the roads, both on the environment, but also on the communities where it was tested. So we've conducted surveys of residents in the neighborhoods that received this cool pavement treatment with a lot of help from Kelly, who participated, Kelly Turner at UCLA, who helped with a similar project there a couple of years ago. And also have collected oodles of environmental data, trying to get a sense of the air, surface, and radiant temperature impacts of this treatment in different neighborhoods. So really interested to think about how we combine and blend and connect all these data sets together into a digestible package. We certainly have a study protocol and the questionnaire as well. But great to see everyone, and thanks to the organizers for putting this together.
Nice. Thank you, Dave. And after this, I think you're on 3 or 4 proposals. You will be anointed as super user as well. And so thank you. And you're actually on the next proposal with Liza. And so is Liza going to describe the next one?
Sure, I can do that. So hi, everyone. I'm Liza Kurtz. I'm a PhD student in the School of Human Evolution and Social Change at Arizona State University. Also working, perhaps unsurprisingly, with Dave Handula, who definitely, if anyone deserves a super user anointing, it's him. And maybe a super user anointing for just about everything. So this project that we're working on involves a series of interviews with disaster management professionals and related professions in the Phoenix area about what they anticipate risks and consequences would be of a 3-day citywide power outage in the summer in Phoenix, which when we did it a few years ago felt a little distant as a potential hazard. And then every year since then, and particularly this year, has felt a little bit more realistic and proximate. Unfortunately, we're not able to share the data since these are interviews with professionals and there's quite a lot of identifying details, some of which they specifically asked to be left out of analysis. But we're hopeful that sharing the interview protocol itself and an extensive code book that we designed to do content analysis on the interviews will inspire future work in this realm. We're particularly interested in what comparative work might come out of this in the future, considering that the protocol scenario is unfortunately relevant to an increasing number of places. And of course, the codebook, it's always nice if you're looking at content analysis of something similar, not to have to start from scratch with your own codebook. So we hope this will be helpful for future work and look forward to sharing the published anonymized results from the interviews as well.
Thank you, Liza, very much. And next, we're going to move to Manu. Oh. Manu, it doesn't look like you're muted or you're unmuted, but we can't hear you just yet.
Sorry, can you hear me now? I'm sorry, just back to my,
Perfect.
and everything had to start because I moved from my home office. Anyway, so my name is Manuni. I am really excited to be here. I'm an assistant professor at University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And my project is actually quite different. I'm a psychologist. I'm from the Department of Psychology. And so my project actually is a survey study that assess people post-disaster psychological state and recovery. So we have variables like their coping skill, their support that they receive, their migration intention, and place attachment or place attachment disruption, and also their well-being after disaster. So we mainly focus on the 2016 Louisiana flood and the Harvey hurricane, but some also, because we let them like freely recall what disaster they are like most impactful. So some of them also we call like older hurricanes. So that's what I'll be sharing, like the instrument protocol and the data.
Thank you very much, Manu. And now we are going to actually, our team at the University of Kansas actually has 2 projects. And so Ram, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Ram Krishna Majumdar. I'm currently a postdoc in the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Architectural Engineering at the University of Kansas. So this project is basically coming from the research group of Dr. Elena Shatley. So in our team, we have also an undergraduate research assistant, Meredith, who is also on this call today. And since we all know that Kansas is very susceptible to tornadoes, so we are focusing on tornado risk perception, post-tornado data collection on building and housing recovery, and risk perception from the communities. So in the first project, we basically focused on collecting the impact and response analysis of housing that are experienced after 2019 Linwood tornado. So we have building repair data as well as responses from the households that how they have experienced during their recovery process after 6 and 12 months after the tornado. And in the second project, we surveyed local contractors to know how they feel about the tornado resistant residential building design. And we also surveyed KU community and their risk perception and their sheltering behavior, particularly how the sheltering behavior and the perception has been changed after this COVID-19, whether they are interested to go outside in the public shelter or not. And from these 2 projects, we will be publishing data instrument. Also, we'll publish the research protocol as well as data. We have like 150 residential building data from the first project, and we obtained pretty much 60% of the response from the local contractor. That would be about 28 data. And yeah, we believe that publishing this data will be helpful for future research work on tornado risk perception impact analysis, particularly for rural Kansas area as well as for the United States. And I'm very excited to learn about how to publishing the data here. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And thanks to Meredith for joining us as well. And we see that Lauren Clay, our super user, is on. And so Lauren, I'm going to wrap back to you at the end. So you have a minute to catch your breath and to orient. But welcome. We're so glad you're here. And we're going to go to Tara next.
Hello, I'm Tara Posey. I'm so happy to be here today and get to learn about Design Safe and everyone's projects. I just graduated from Boise State University with a master's in human environment systems, and I'm starting at Davis in the fall, continuing in social science and disaster research. And my co-PI on my master's work and my advisor is Viken Hillis, who's also here today, so he can jump in at any point if I miss anything. But yeah, the work that we are publishing is data from my master's project. So we are looking at the facilitators and barriers to LiDAR uptake in the Pacific Northwest. So we're based in Idaho, but we also sent out our survey to Oregon and Washington to see if there was regional differences. And we focused on individual factors as well as collective factors. So we did a ego network analysis as well to see how peer influence impacted uptake of LiDAR. So yeah, we are hoping to publish our survey data and then our interview and survey instruments. And one question that came up for us is how we're going to deal with the copyright of data. The work was funded through FEMA and DHS, and as well as Boise State has some copyright. So I'm sure that's something that will come up later when we talk about it, but yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara, and thank you, Viken. And please know, if you saw Maria just nodding, she is ready for that, as well as she's going to be talking. Several of you post questions in advance about de-identifying interview transcripts, interview guides, and so forth. And so Maria is ready for us. It is going to be covering this shortly. So thank you. And now we're going to move over to Olivia Vila.
Hi, everyone. So I'm a PhD candidate at North Carolina State University working with Dr. Gavin Smith, and we will be publishing our research instrument, which is a semi-structured interview guide that was intended to generate data about factors that contribute to innovation in hazard-prone housing acquisition or buyout programs across the United States. So the questionnaire was a collaborative effort from people in different disciplines and with different types of expertise. And it's also heavily structured based off of 2 leading policy innovation frameworks. And also, this wasn't originally in our proposal, but after digging into Design Safe more, I was inspired to publish our analysis codebook and details about the process for the development of that codebook, which included, for example, team workshops. We decided to do that because we felt that publishing the pair of tools would be more useful for those who want to use the interview guide as is, and those who may be wanting to refine it for their own purposes. So I have 2 questions that I came up with. First was whether there are templates to publish these instruments, pretty templates. I'm not the most design savvy, and I know having an attractive product makes people more likely to read, pay attention, and use. So I'm curious about tools and support for that. And then the second question is, what are current efforts or plans for supporting the use of these tools and data from people who just want to use everything that's available on Design Safe?
Thank you, Olivia, for that overview and those fantastic questions that we hope we're going to tackle today. So thank you. And now we're going to move over to Lance Watkins.
Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to be here, excited to learn more about Design Safe. So I'm a PhD student working with Dave Hondula at Arizona State in the School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning. The project that we worked on was specifically looking at how do we reduce the overall risk of extreme heat in terms of indoor environments, specifically residential environments. And in order to kind of address this, one of the things that we were doing was implementing a Wi-Fi enabled temperature sensor called a temp stick. So this sensor can actually send alerts if your indoor environment gets above a certain threshold temperature to the residents, but as well as other people that the residents kind of deem in their social network. And this is also work that's kind of being supported by the Arizona Department of Health Services. They're very interested in this. They want to see if this would be a tool that could really be kind of scaled up and in order to kind of address indoor heat in the state of Arizona. And we are interested in publishing our survey data that we also have along with the instrument data, as well as protocol. And we have some recruitment documentation that we've used to kind of recruit participants into the study. So.
Nice. Thank you, Lance. And David, as you were speaking, he looked like he was on the Home Shopping Network showing off the tool. And so, yeah, what a dream team. So thank you to you both, and thank you to Mary as well. And now we're going to move to Florida with Chile.
Thank you, Laurie. This is Shile Zhao. I'm very happy to be here. So before I jump into details of our projects, I want to first acknowledge our team members. So including me, assistant professor in civil and coastal engineering at UF, and Yiming Xu, a doctoral student at UF as well. And we have Reno Lavgio from Massey University in New Zealand, Erica Kuligowski from RMIT in Australia, and Daniel Nielsen from University of Canterbury. So our project, focusing on, we are trying to publish the first GPS data set. So essentially collected from people's mobile apps, and to capture highway vehicle routing behavior during the 2019 Kincade fire, which happened in Sonoma County, California. So this new data set is very different from all the other traditional evacuation data sets. So this data set can help researchers better understand householders' evacuation departure time and route choice at a very granular level, and it can also help validate the existing evacuation simulation models. So yeah, that's my quick introduction of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to go to Lisa.
My name is Lisa Zottarelli, and I'm currently on faculty at the University of Tennessee. My contribution will be to publish a survey instrument on law enforcement first responder experiences during and after a large-scale evacuation. The instrument was developed to study disaster-related work and family experiences, and then subsequent work and family conflict, well-being, and job satisfaction. And the question sets cover a variety of issues that are commonly encountered by first responders during evacuations and other disasters, including work-related experiences, adverse events, sheltering issues, and professional and familial support. Additionally, the instrument has questions related to the first responders' families' planning and preparedness, as well as the first responders' understanding of their family expectations and how they would contribute to their family evacuation. The original study focused exclusively on law enforcement officers, but my hope is that this being able to share this instrument will inspire some future work with either this population or other first responding populations.
Thank you, Lisa, very much. And Lauren Clay, if you are ready to give us your 2-minute overview, we would love to hear from you, and we're so glad you're here and safe.
Thank you. So I'm publishing from protocols and instruments and some data from my food environment impacts from Hurricane Florence study. Included in this, so this was a longitudinal in-depth critical incident case study. So 4 waves of data collected starting the week of the event, continuing to the 1-year anniversary and is ongoing. But at this point, I'm going to publish the protocol for the study, including a detailed description of how we planned and selected the field location and IRB considerations, the actual IRB application, several interview guides, so one for farmers, one for individuals who were affected, one for food response organization workers, an instrument, an observation protocol for food and meal distribution sites, a demographic and social survey, as well as data from 4 waves of data collection in retail food stores. So we have market basket assessments from 10 food stores at 4 time points to look at food availability. And then I guess my question is really around best practices for publishing interview transcripts. And so if possible, I'd like to publish some interview transcripts. I know we've been trying to figure this out, so hopefully this is an additional attempt, and maybe others have figured some stuff out along the way. So fingers crossed for that, but hopefully we at least incrementally move things forward in that direction.
Thank you, Lauren. And we're getting ready to turn it over to the Design Safe team. But before you joined, Lauren, you were labeled as a super user because you already have so much experience with Design Safe. So we wonder, will you take the 20 seconds you didn't use in your description to say something about what your experience has been working with the Design Safe team in moving all these publications that you've already done forward?
Yeah, sure. So certainly I think Design Safe is really great for data publication and data reuse. But the things that I found most helpful, and I will say that everything that I've published and used Design Safe for so far is still in progress. And so from a project management perspective, it's really the end-to-end data management features that have been most meaningful to me so far. So I have lots of multi-institutional longitudinal projects going. Right now I have 7 active projects in Design Safe. And so it's a great platform where I can share data securely with collaborators at other institutions. I have 5 COVID studies and collaborators at 12 institutions, including lots of students. So through Design Safe, I'm able to post sort of a README with how to navigate the folders, add students, and they can access the data securely, save their works in progress, all of the documentation in case we get questions down the road about how something was done. And it's all sort of independent of any one institution. So, I've been including in each of my IRBs at my institution that I will be housing the data there and it can be accessed securely so that I'm not adding 9,000 people to my IRB trying to navigate things. So it's been, the end-to-end data management has been really useful. And then I'm really excited about the data reuse. I haven't actually closed out any of the projects yet, but in the meantime, it's been a great platform for publishing like research briefs and policy briefs to get information out there prior to a publication, and also to different types of users who might not be reading scholarly literature. For example, the New York State Vaccine Equity Task Force, initiated by Governor Cuomo, reached out about some of the vaccine information that we have in our COVID surveys. And so now they're able to access those reports even prior to publications reaching mass consumption. So it's been really useful in all of those ways and others, but I'm sure I went over 20 seconds. Sorry.
Lauren, thank you so much. And just thank you for giving that overview and thank you. And to everyone, thank you for sticking with your 2 minutes. You did an amazing job and shared an amazing amount of information. I know Gina had to just step out, but again, that was breathtaking what you shared. And now we're going to get to hear from Tim Cockerell, who's going to give an overview of Design Safe, and then we're going to turn to Maria. And so Tim, over to you, and thank you for being with us today. And Tim, I can see your slides, but I can't hear you just yet.
Sorry, the computer guy has the hardest time getting the computer to do what he wants, right? So here we go. Let's see. All right. So are you seeing my slides or the presenter view?
Yeah, it looks the slides look perfect.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So I am Tim, and I do want to definitely recognize my team. PI of the project for Design Safe is Professor Ellen Rathje at Civil Engineering in UT Austin. And then the Texas Advanced Computing Center is where Maria and Craig and I and several dozen other people that touch this project work on. So we have end-to-end. We support all of the back-end hardware. When we say cloud, it's our cloud at UT Austin at the Texas Advanced Computing Center, all of our supercomputers and data storage facilities, and then all the way through all of the people that work on this project, including all of the software development that provides you with the web-based interface for everything. So end to end, we provide all of that, and then our idea is that end to end, we give you the ability to do your research almost entirely within Design Safe. So there's our mission statement. And then, yeah, like I said, our vision is to really bring together the entire community and all of the different aspects of your research to be able to work together, communicate, and do interdisciplinary natural hazards research. So you've probably been to the website already, but I just want to point out a few things. The really interactive part to do the research, this is what we call the workspace. And this is where we have the data depot, where your data is managed, tools and applications, where you can find lots of tools to work on your data, whether it's data analysis, simulation, visualization, lots of different capabilities. A recon portal, the NERI, and I'll describe in a second, the NERI Sim Center, another partner in the project who develops simulation tools, a lot of it based in uncertainty quantification and regional assessment as hazard assessment as well. And then if you have questions and trying to learn some things, we have the user guides, and our team, and especially in Maria's area, have really enhanced those in recent months. So this is how we would like to see things working together, and we're seeing more and more of this. We've been around for almost 6 years now, and we've got we're good through 2025 at this point, so as a bare minimum. So y'all can count on us being here to support your research for quite a while. And NERI is a follow-on to a program that really started around the year 2000. So it's really been around quite a long time. So we see you being able to interact through the workspace to, as I mentioned, work on your data, but also get the public data, get this published data and bring it into some of the tools that you want. How do you discover data? You can search within the data depot. You can go to the recon portal down there in the lower right, where you can find on a map various hazard events that have happened over the past several years. And then it links to some data sets that you'll see, be able to more quickly find some of the data you're looking for. And then we also do a variety of, support a variety of webinars, training sessions, tutorials, and that's across all of the NERI platform, because it's not just for using our tools, but also the experimental facilities that are a part of the NERI program as well. And so one other thing I wanted to mention that's also a part of what we do, but not really the website itself and portal, is we have Slack as a collaboration capability. And one of the things I wanted to point out about Slack, and when you all got a Design Safe account, you get invited to join Slack. I encourage you to do that. But we really enable real-time collaboration during a hazard event. And here's just an example here. University of Florida has the mobile weather towers that they put out. But you'll see these folks talking with all of the other people, some people back doing analysis and virtual reconnaissance, talking to the people in the field about where they should locate. Different teams with different instruments saying, well, let's coordinate with where you're putting your towers so you can get good wind speed data, and I'll put my nearshore data out and we'll get tide information and surge information and things like that. And so it's really fascinating to watch and participate in the collaboration that happens, and all the way to the level of, there's no hotels here. You're going to have to go down the road and find another place to live, because the people that are evacuating, have priority. And those folks need to be able to get into safe places first, and the researchers need to find a place that accommodates their needs as well. So we see all kinds of collaboration happening on Slack during a hazard event. Lauren mentioned she has lots of projects. And here's what she means. In the Data Depot, we have multiple areas. You can see on the left there, my data, my projects. So my projects is where you set up a project, and she described them really well. It's a nice place where you can share data with team members, and each of those projects that you create, you can have different sets of people that you share that with. And you can work with that data for as long as you need to. You can bring any data there and eventually publish whatever parts of that data you'd like. And Craig and Maria will get into a lot of detail on that. You do not have to publish what you bring to Design Safe. You do not have to publish everything you bring to Design Safe. So we would like you to publish and share what you can. Maria is always there to help you with, how to best do that kind of work. How to bring your data here. We integrate with some of the more popular cloud data storage systems out there, Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, so you can log in with those credentials into and link those systems of Box, Dropbox, or Google Drive, and just drag and drop or copy data over very, very easily. We don't sync that data. You select which files you want to bring over because we don't want to accidentally have some data back and forth syncing if you're syncing to your desktop, that kind of thing. But it's a great way to move data over. And there's a few different ways to bring data over. We aren't going to worry too much about that right now. But then what you really want to do is eventually publish that data. And when you publish, this is what it looks like. So you can go in, it kind of looks like the beginnings of a journal paper with your title, who's the authors, or here in this case, the PIs, an abstract, and then some version of what did you do, and then it gets into a layout of the data model. And this is what Maria spent a lot of time developing with the community for the various data models that we have. And you can see it lays out in a way that it's easy for someone, because the community helped us determine this, for another researcher in your area to find what they're looking for. So we have several data models already in place. We said we like to call these structured but flexible. Now with flexibility comes some responsibility on the researcher's part. And that's a big part of working with Maria or Craig or whoever at Design Safe will be working with you. And that's why she has the virtual office hours, is because of the flexibility. You're not forced into exactly doing certain things, but it's a framework that allows other researchers to reuse your data. In this particular Publish Your Data event, probably mostly focusing on field research and other, which is a very general, easy to, it's a very simple data model, and often people will use that for things like publishing just a report or something like that. Supporting integrated interdisciplinary data sets. So you in addition to maybe just an experimental or just a field research, you do identify the hazard domains that you're publishing in, and then also there is a structure to how all of this is put together. As I mentioned, there's flexibility, but again, framework and structure behind it. They're going to go into a lot more detail on this, so I'm going to kind of move along here, and also we're a few minutes behind to start, so I'm gonna move along to why do you want to do this, right? Maria has spent, I keep saying Maria because really she is all of the intellectual content behind what we're doing here with the data publishing. And so it's making your data count, making it reproducible, reusable, and citable. And that's the beauty of this, right? Is that as you get this data out there, you also are able to determine the reuse of that data. And Maria is working also with other members of the team at TAC to do that in a more automated fashion. Right now, she puts a lot of effort into manually keeping up with some of this. We've automated some things and we're improving that automation going forward in terms of tracking citations. But at this point, we've already implemented where you can go into one of our publications and you can see the data reuse statistics for each of the publications. So data reuse and data citations, something we're really trying to help with and ensure happens for your projects. And again, curation assistance, I keep mentioning Maria and her team. Oops, this is an old slide. Sorry about that. Mahyar is no longer with us, and we're in the process of getting a new hire in place. But we have multiple approaches to giving you assistance. So we have online for those that want to read and can go through user guides and do this. We have had researchers that have gone through the user guides, followed the process, and published their things just fine. Maria still takes a look at a lot of things, and there have been times where she'll go back and give people some advice. Maybe we make some changes, but we have had people successfully publish without other assistance. We have user guides up there. I mentioned data transfer with the browser, right? Dropbox, all of that. We have for much larger data sets, or maybe you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of files, people do. There's other more advanced techniques also in our data transfer guides, things such as Globus or various SFTP capabilities like CyberDuck. And then of course, this is really a key to the success of publication, I believe, and that is virtual curation office hours, where twice a week or by appointment, Maria and other team members at TAC are available to personally get on a Zoom call and work with you. And there's a link there for how to sign up. And that's all I've got. And there you go.
Thank you, Tim, so much for that overview. That was wonderful. And now that was really, really wonderful and really helpful. And to everybody on the call, if you have questions as the Design Safe team is moving forward through these different presentations, please put those in the chat. And yeah, thank you, Tim. And now we're going to move over to Maria.
I don't know if I am not sure. Hold on, stop share. I don't see my, let me see. I'm going to share the screen. Oh, here. Do you see my presentation?
There it goes. It's in,
okay,
it's in slideshow now. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So good afternoon to all of you. I am a data curator. I am an information scientist, and I've been working in Design Safe, well, at TAC as a data curator, but in Design Safe since its inception. And certainly interdisciplinary data in Design Safe brought a whole lot of new challenges, very interesting ones, but nevertheless, very challenging. So there are some questions that we will have to, and especially I am noticing this might be not totally a new community, but it may have, its little differences. And the same thing we do with every new community, we welcome them and we really incorporate them in our design. We really need to work with you to better understand your needs. You may find things that you need that we don't have at the moment because you are a new community, and we are happy to listen to you and to take care of your needs. So just bear with us. That is a process, and we change, we evolve, basically. We evolve as you evolve. So we have anyway learned a little bit in this year and a half. We have more or less 40, I would say, social science / interdisciplinary publications in Design Safe up to date. Many are training materials that I recommend. There are check sheets that I think that are very relevant to many of the questions that you have raised, that are going to be responded by your community, by Lori, ethics, formats, how to conduct this, how to do that. I mean, those are very useful resources that I am not a social scientist, I cannot answer those questions, but they are there, and you can also see them on the Converge website. But here you can cite them, and so you can have the proper publication. We have instruments and protocols. There are a lot of publications of instruments and protocols, and Craig will tell you why we designed the data model the way we designed it. So we would allow you to first publish those documents if you want, or only publish those documents aside from the data. But as we have heard from users, data is the meat of everything. They want to see the data. People want to see the data. As Lauren has said, she has a lot of in progress work that she's going to publish the data later. At subsequent, we allow subsequent publication. But it is true that you have to bear that in mind. And I want you to be thinking about that, because as you design, not this one, but as you design your research, as you write your IRB proposal, as you design your questionnaire, you have to be thinking about the pros and cons of having too restrict. How can you open up your data the more you can? At the same time, considering all the ethical issues related to treating and working with human subjects and publishing data with human subjects, which is going to be the meat of what I present. So we have heard from users saying, oh, I see this instrument, where's the data? And this is a question that somebody asked. Well, this data, when I did this, the IRB didn't contemplate my sharing the data. So what do I do now? I have to restrict this access. But you can always say, there's no data here, but this is describe the data and give your personal information. I mean, the email is available publicly. Your email is available public, or say where they can, what institute or what institution they should talk to you about the possibility of looking at that data, and you will talk to that user, thinking, can I give this user the data, or can I give them something, because I didn't provision, there was no provision of being able to publish the data, or the data cannot be published, and we will talk about that. But when there was no provision in the IRB and you said, we are not publishing anything because this may have been done before, there was such a push for open access data, then you have to stick with it, but you have to open these channels. And we allow you to publish your instruments, we allow you to publish the metadata about that data, but it's very important that the users clearly see why this is restricted and how can they get in touch with you so that they can open up that possibility a little bit more. So I've seen in your discussions here and also in your questions that your concerns about related sharing, publishing interdisciplinary data, their professional ethics, licensing and rights, data presentation, protected data publishing, data formats, use and support, security, sustainability. These are the doubts. Has anybody any other concern that doesn't, I try to categorize these that you think you may have or you want to talk, you can put it in the chat as well. Here it says, Maria's mention of data management plans makes me wonder if there are some templates with language. Yes, there are. There is a data management Converge template. So that is available, and I will put the address later. So is there anything else that you think that I am not going to cover, or that is like a concern that you have, basic concern? Some people are afraid of, great question, they will have, okay. Some people are afraid how to navigate potentially competing repositories. Do we need to pick one? I'll talk about that. And I am afraid, yes, you need to. I mean, you can link things too, but I'll talk about that in my last presentation, the DOI. I'll address that. Good question. Okay. So here I will talk mostly about how to manage risk and how to because this is about, as we were talking about, this is about human subjects data. It can be mixed with engineering data, but this is about data and risks. And so it's important for you to know ahead of time, what are these risks? Exactly, what are these risks about? And so there are some risks that are human, and there are others some that are technical. So, risk of data being accessed by unauthorized people, risks of identity theft, some loose security in your team, somebody that is sharing things they shouldn't share, and giving access or copying things that they should not, and that is something you have to manage yourself, the researcher. And of course, we as a repository, we have technical risks that we manage, data being tampered with or corrupted, or our security, our system, is it secure? Is it sustainable? And that's our responsibility. So since inception, I am happy to report that DesignSafe has not had any reported or observed security incident of any kind, not because the users have incurred in I would say malpractices, but in mistakes, or they have told us, oh, this data, somebody in their team didn't respect certain ethical concerns, or because there was a breach to the system, a technical breach. So far, so good. And it's this mixture of policies and training and the security of the system, and talking to you about these ethical issues. So what is protected data? I think that you all know, and I put all of these, I'm not gonna, read everything, but basically it's data that should not be disclosed to unauthorized parties. And there are federal mandates that specifically talk about health data, which is the HIPAA, and FERPA, which is the data belonging to the students. And those are very clear regulations. But you also have to take into consideration any data that has personal identifiable information, and data that has very sensitive information, very sensitive, confidential information. Somebody was mentioning, ethical concerns, or Lisa was talking about, I imagine, about, law enforcement people talking about their experiences in the field as they evacuate. I mean, I imagine that those are very sensible objects, or professionals that don't want, they want to give an opinion about something, but they don't want their names to be associated with these opinions. So all of this it comes into this sensitive, confidential information. But of course, protected data has different levels of risk. So one thing is to release your name and the food preference that you like or not. And that in your IRB, you may even talk to the people and say, would you mind that I put your age, just because we need to, that we publish age or ethnicity and food taste? People may say, no, I can care less. I mean, you don't publish my name, or you can publish, I mean, there's no point on the name to make any difference. It's not terrible. But if you have to say address and insurance information, well, then that's a very different risk. And that is something you really need to gauge as you try to open up your data. What are the real risks in your design, okay? Because sometimes we just say, no, restrict, but maybe there's no such need, or maybe yes. We have now new protected data policies and best practices, and Craig is going to show you. We have enhanced all of our documentation. We have added other anonymization, how to, publications about how to anonymize data. We can help in that case, because there are many different ways, and that would take an entire class. But what I am trying to say is that we are here to support you, and we have published some resources that I think are standards that you can read and look into. So we have the policy is like, what is the policy here? Don't publish, blah, blah, blah. And then how to apply that policy. So one important thing is that you need to understand the types of identifiers in data. That is like basic 101 thing. So direct and indirect identifiers. Direct is any information that will say, this is Maria Esteva. So it's my name, my social security number, my image, my face, I mean, my email address, etc. But indirect is any information that combined can disclose the identity of an individual. So you may not say my name, but you say, this is the data curator in DesignSafe. Well, that's, I mean, there's only two, and one is a female, the other is so, or it will be very narrow, and so you can identify who I am, and this is what you need to be managing. So how do you, how do we allow publishing data in DesignSafe? It will have to do with these types of identifiers that you have to have very present what they are. And we have them in our best practice. So that's the first point. Then another point is, how do you manage, data in DesignSafe? This human subject data in DesignSafe. Tim told you that there are many instances, and Lauren Clay told you that there are many instances. There's a private instance where she shares just data with her students. No, you are planning, and so you are storing, planning documents in the data depot, my data or my project, especially my project when you share with your students or with your coworkers or with your colleagues. You are gathering data in the field. All of this is happening before you publish. Where can you put this data? Here, you can put this data in my data and in my project. So this is a project that is growing. We are not publishing anything yet. So you can put data in my data and in my projects with certain caveats. Then you're going to be curating the data, and that's also private to you. You will be, you will see what you do when you curate the data, you tag it, you put metadata, you decide whether this is going to be published or not, etc. That Craig is going to tell you. Then you're going to publish the data, and that's public. And somebody's going to be reusing that data. Again, they can reuse within DesignSafe or in another platform private to them. So you see, these are instances. This is a life cycle of your data. So what do you do with, at these instances, with your protected data? It will depend on these identifiers and the sensitivity of your data. So prior to publication, where you have your raw data, it's not curated, you are gathering this data, you have to assess and evaluate these. It doesn't have to be HIPAA or FERPA data. In order to put it in DesignSafe, my projects, forget about publication. You are in this space in which you are working with your team. No HIPAA or FERPA data. No data with national security information that's sensitive and confidential. No data that contains extremely sensitive information. So that type of data cannot go on my projects or my data. If any of the above, then you have to consider using tax-protected data storage, which is another instance, and it's managed by TAC, not by DesignSafe. And I'll show you that. So if this data is so hot in terms of personal identifiable information, in terms of the content, you cannot just put it in my projects or my data. You have to put it in a protected data storage. What you can put in DesignSafe is PII light data. You have to assess the risk and say, again, we were talking about opinions, etc. But if I have to say, Lisa's data in which she's talking about very confidential things with law enforcement people, I would select the protected data storage at TAC. Just to leave it there, just to store it there. Or de-identify data. De-identify data, no problem. You can store it in my project. So let's reinforce that. Storing protected data at TAC, private with extra security restrictions, you can go to these TAC protected data services. And this complies with ISO and UT Austin security standards. And by ISO, I mean with any standard, and it's managed by the user, meaning you will submit an application that is going to be reviewed by a compliance officer at TAC, and they are going to set a specific directory with only you access, and that partition is absolutely protected, and it's absolutely in agreement with any ISO security information. But you will handle that, and that's where you can store your data as you are working with it. We are not handling that protected, meaning we design safe. So that's where you can store that data. So remember, some, PII light data that is not HIPAA, FERPA, or extremely sensitive, you can put in my projects. You can share in my projects. Then you will de-identify to publish that data. So when you are curating and deciding what to publish, and here, this also turns into what are the best practices for publishing qualitative interview transcripts. This question can be answered here. Any data, qualitative interview transcripts, responses of surveys, tables, anything that has personal identifiable information cannot be published. So if your interview transcript has my name is this and that, and you have not had the consent of the user in your IRB protocol, then you will have to redact it, anonymize, and that's how you will be able to publish it. And also, so it has to be curated. No HIPAA, FERPA, or data under other federal constraints. No PII, and we saw what is PII. No direct personal identifiable information, which we know, and not more than 3 indirect identifiers that put together will not disclose identity. This is to publish protected data. Or you say, my IRB, I agree. In my IRB, I said, I asked all of my people, do you mind if I publish your personal identifiable information? You get the consent? Yes, no problem then. And you put your IRB protocol, you explain this. There's personal identifiable information, but we have all the response, all the authorizations from the users. Then also this use of keys, and this is one of these projects that I put here. I'm sorry, it's the Food Access Impact Survey for Harris County and Southeast Texas after Hurricane Harvey. This is a very good example of, this is, Nathaniel, of course. This is a very good example of data that was de-identified and how the work that he has done in order to work with these indirect identifiers so that people will not be able to say, oh, this business is here, located here, or this business is amazing. So this is a good example. This is very, very, he has published every documentation. So this is important for you to know. I'm sorry, I don't know if I am going, but anyway. And then
Maria, we're doing we're about 15 minutes over on this session, but Craig said he might not need the full 45 minutes. So about maybe 5 more minutes, if that's good.
Yeah. Thank you. So then you can also publish with restricted data, meaning you can restrict the access and just publish, this is a good example here, Galveston recovery for 2008 Hurricane Ike, a laboratory. Okay, this is just the documents I'm sorry, the protocols and the protocols and the metadata, and the address of where to contact this researcher. Because people have contacted us, there's a feedback now, leave feedback, and people said, I want the data. Okay, go and directly talk to Shannon Van Zandt, and you will talk to her. So think about this, consider this. So all of these considerations, they happen during the research planning, during your data management. This is when you design your research and you have to think, okay, I'm going to do this. This has such level of risk. Where am I going to store this when you write your IRB? This is not much risk. Maybe I should ask my potential, surveyors, my human subjects, it would be bad if I, put your age, this and this and that. Be very direct, be very thoughtful, and try to open as much as you can and avoid all the work that implies de-anonymization of the data. But if your data will become totally, incomprehensible, if you anonymize it so much, then you really have to think about restricting access. So this is in a nutshell. I'm going to stop sharing, and I hope you can really leave, if you want, some of the questions here, and as Craig goes with the other part, then I can answer the questions. I hope this was, if you have really something that you don't understand, please write in your in the chat.
Okay, and I'll walk everyone through the interface now. Okay, so here we are on the DesignSafe homepage. First, I want to show you guys how to browse data publications and use the search functions. So right here on the homepage, we have a quick link, browse data publications, and it takes you right to all the listing. So here at the top, we have search filters. Field research and other are primarily where you all will all be publishing. So if I click field research and other, I can search on both of those. And I can click more options. There's a couple more filters here. I can do by natural hazard type and data type for project type other. We are always updating this list. We've seen a lot of people publish check sheets recently, and we're going to get that added here so you can filter by check sheets. So let's say I want to search for Nathaniel Rosenheim's project that Maria was just talking about. I can type in his author name here. I want to see everything he's published under the field research data model and anything he might have published under the other data model. Click search. And here we have a project other, a field research, something else where he was an author, but not necessarily the PI on. So if I went in there, I would see his name and a couple of other of the same type. So I can click on his project here. And Nathaniel is a great resource for how projects should look and how you should describe your data. He does a great job of describing and organizing. Here we have his overall project. We can download the entire project. We can also view data metrics on the project. This is a new feature. So we can see how many times it's been downloaded, how many times individual files have been viewed, and reused by quarter. We have all the DOIs. This is at the top here. We were talking about how you can get DOIs for specific documents before you publish the data. Before you publish the data here, he published some of these documents and received a DOI for each. So these go in the documents collection and they're grouped together. And then this is where his data lives, in the mission. So this is for Hurricane Harvey. We have all the authors listed here. If you click on the authors, you can get their institution, and if they enter their email on their account, that will appear there too. You can also do the leave feedback, use the new leave feedback feature, leave them some constructive feedback. And here is all his data. So all the metadata, that goes with it, and all his files are tagged, and he uses CSV format, which is interoperable, so anybody can open it. Okay, now I'll show you how to get to this point. The very basics of adding a new project. So here I am in my projects area. I'm going to click Add New Project. I'm going to add myself as PI, and I'll add Maria as a collaborator. So anyone I add here as a project member or another PI, or one should say co-PI, whoever is second would be co-PI, can access the data that I'm going to put in the project. So keep that in mind when you're sharing files. You don't want to add a new undergraduate student that messes with the files. Maybe keep them somewhere else as well. In the My Data, if you put them in the My Data area, no one else will be able to touch them. So here we have demo project real quick, project type none. Currently, if I click Edit Project, I can say change project type. And here is the selection of project types. So I can click on Field Research. And we have an overview that I encourage you all to read. It takes 5 minutes to read. It's kind of summarizing a lot of the things we talked about here today. And it goes over the different collections. One of the nice things is it tells you what types of files go into each collection, so you can start thinking early about how I'm going to group my data. Go through that all. And some best practices. We're reminding you to publish in formats that are interoperable. And this is acknowledging, no, we will not upload any non-conventional or confidential information. No, we will upload. And some guidelines that you will agree to before you eventually publish at the end, but we're letting you know them now. Now I'm taken to a bigger edit project form here. So here's my title at the top. Now this is Field Research Project. Now we start filling in metadata. So we have field research type. You can say interdisciplinary or just social scientists, and natural hazard type. You can select, and you can do more than one for each of these. So I could say this was reconnaissance, social sciences, and geosciences, whatever have you. And same here, this is hurricane. And I can select other ones. Here are the PIs, project members, you can add more here. Unregistered project members, if someone is stubborn, doesn't want to make a DesignSafe account, but you need to have their name on the publication, add them here and add that institution so people can contact them. And then the event, the natural hazard event, the dates of the event location, keywords, project description, fill all that out. Now this is like a cooking show where I'm going to suddenly pull out the cake from the oven and it's all going to be done. Here is a project I've created earlier that is fully curated. So here's all the project information here at the top that I was just showing you where to fill in. And now there are 3 buttons here that say add missions, add collections, and relate data. You can do add missions and collections first or second. We encourage this order of add missions first, then add your collections. But some of you might want to just do a documents collection and aren't ready to add the mission yet. That's fine. So when you add a mission, it's a similar modal with various metadata, mission site location. Some things are optional, some things are required. And when you add them, they appear below and you can edit them or delete them down below. Similarly with collections, you can add all your collections here. We have the definitions up here to remind you. And add a social sciences collection. Title, unit of analysis, modes, sampling approaches, states of collection, equipment, restrictions, reference data, and another description. Add those, they appear below, and you can edit them just the same as you do with missions. Once you add a collection, you can assign a file to a collection, put it in collection. So I'll remove this one here. So, this file, I say select a collection, and here I have all my collections here. So I say interview preparation, and I click save. And here I have a file tag for it. This is a protocol. These file tags are really handy for reminding you what types of files go in certain types of collections. And we're always updating this list of file tags. We just heard from or about the weather ready data community. We haven't heard about them before, but if they have specific file tags they want to be putting in these lists, talk to Maria or I, and we'll get them added in, okay? And so I've added all these files to different collections. They're color-coded. And step 3 is relate the data. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to say all these collections go in this mission to Mexico Beach. And then documents collections exist outside the mission. And we have research planning, which is mostly just everything done in preparation for the mission. And then the actual data goes in the gold colored collections, engineering or social sciences collections. And then I can add more collections down here. I can change the order of them depending on how you want them to appear. This is rapid team preparation documents. So that goes next to the engineering data. These are social science planning documents. So they go next to right above the social science collection. And I can reorder them however I want. Now I go over to publication preview, and I get a preview of what it will look like when it's published. And this will give you peace of mind before you publish. And this is a great place to proofread your work. So here is the documents collection. It reminds you that this receives its own DOI when it's published separately. And here is my mission. And I can expand them, double check the file tags and the metadata, and make sure it's ready to go. Now, when I'm ready to publish it, I click on prepare to publish. We remind you of the best practices one more time. Right now, I can only publish. I'm gonna talk about amending and versioning in a second. And there's a 6-step process here. So I'm gonna just publish this mission, select this mission in all of its files, proofread your data, proofread. This seems excessive, but trust us, we have to go back and tell a lot of people to go fix their grammar. Order the authors of the mission. So I want Maria to come first. So I'm going to click on her name. I'm going to move her up. I'm going to click save. And now I can see she appears first in the citation preview. And I'm going to go on to licenses. We've seen a lot of people choose every single license. You should only really have one license per publication. The software down here, I'm sure you will never or might not touch as much, but that's for people that are publishing code. So I'm just going to choose between these two. I'm going to choose the recommended one. You can read the details of what the license entails and request DOI and publish. There's a final agreement where you agree that your data is protected. And then once you agree to both of those, you can turn both keys and publish. Okay, as I said earlier, a lot of you are publishing project type others. That's also very simple. You add a new project and be quick about this. Go to edit projects, project type other, continue. Okay, now for project type other, we also have the natural hazard type. up here. You can have more than one. Down here is data type, which is the important part of how it appears in the search listing and the listing of all the published projects. So in here, I have all these options, social sciences. If I click other, I can write in a custom one. So a lot of you have been doing that for check sheets. And there's only one data type. And that's something that people can filter on, as I showed you earlier. Okay. And then similarly, you go through the same publication process of selecting files. And in other projects, there is no collections, but there are file tags. So be sure, and there's a huge list of file tags here for you to choose from. Choose wisely. Okay, now I'd like to show off our newest features, which is versioning and amending, which is only for project type other currently, but we're going to be moving it out to other project types eventually. So here I have a Jupyter notebook I published on our test server a while back, and I would like to version and amend some of the metadata. So I'm going to go over here to publication preview, prepare to amend or version. I can amend metadata or I can version. Amending is just for the metadata at the top. You can also add new related works if you have more work that relates to this over time. And then versioning, but let's start with metadata. Amend, so here I have my project information at the top. I can click here. I can edit it, add more awards, add more related work, as I said, save the changes. And we'd like you to confirm author order, just because a lot of people will need to, we just need to confirm it because a lot of people mess up the order and contact us with tickets. And then once you're done, you go up here and you click amend publication. And then for versioning, so I need to select all the files that I want to appear in the new version. So we don't go back and check to grab your old files. You need to select your whatever old files you want to keep and the new files for your new version. So the new version will always include the file selected here. Select any previously published files that you still want in the new version. That's important. So I want to publish this one and I want to publish this one. Save my selections. I continue. Confirm author order. And now this is an important step. Explain version changes. Specify what files you're adding, removing, replacing, why these changes are needed. This is going to be displayed to for everyone to see. So be detailed and formal in your explanation. Explain that here. And then publish new version. And let me see if I can find something that's been published. Here's something our developer tested with. So then at the top here, you can go to the original version or the new version, and you can view the version changes. Okay. Okay, and I also wanted to show the new user guide section that Maria was talking about. If you go to Workplace and you go to User Guides, we have a new layout here. It's much easier to navigate. And over here in this section, we have curating and publishing projects. Probably the most useful to y'all is the best practices section. I click here. This is divided up into different sections, how we develop the data collections, how you curate, how do you publish, and how do you preserve. If you go to data publication, there's a lot of information here about de-identifying data. Maria was talking on this earlier. You can go here to review all that information as well. Okay. Okay, let me look over my notes, make sure I got everything. Yeah, I think that's all. Any questions?
Craig, I just wanted to say the amount of time, effort, and care that you, Maria, Tim, Ellen, the entire Design Safe team have given to be so responsive to requests from social scientists. Like when we've run into a wall when something has happened, I just thank you so much, and thank you for that overview and giving us a sense. And one of the things that was happening that I really want to address when you were going through those extraordinary demos is related to this decision making behind, is it an other project or is it a social science project, which we have spent countless hours talking through. And so I actually want to give a real example to everybody on the team. And Sergio, I'm looking at you right now because I think that of all the projects, yours may be one that goes into the other, because you are building, you're building this sort of template and protocol, and it's not based on, you're using newspaper accounts, right? And so it's not based on where you're doing surveys, interviews, where you're out before, during, or after an event, and so forth. And so of all of the projects that we received, right now, Sergio's is the main one that's Sergio and Teams that's standing out to me as potentially for other. Most of the other projects, and please, if you think you're in other, let's jump in on this, but most of the other projects, as Maria was saying in the chat, even if they're not event specific, if you are gathering data from human beings in some kind of way, you're most likely going to be in that field research data model. That was the first one that Craig showcased for us. And I want to give you a concrete example from something that I had to work through with Maria from two projects that I put up in Design Safe. So one of them, and I'll put the link to this. So one of them was a data set that our team, we built here at the Natural Hazard Center. It includes over 300 academic hazards and disaster research centers around the world. And we built a map from that data set, and then we wanted to publish the data. But we got all that data from us doing internet searches, we were doing no human subjects data, etc. That went into the other data model because it wasn't event specific. We were building the data set from open source information that we were finding on the web. It's a relatively small Excel file that we published, etc. That was other. Then I came to Maria a year later, because many of you are members of the Social Science Extreme Events Research Network, which, as you know, involved filling out a survey, not specific to an event, but has data, has reports, census reports that we wanted to publish, has an instrument that we wanted to publish with the survey. And so Maria said, at first Maria was like, well, but the SSER data, it's not about an event. It's probably an other. But then the more Maria and I talked, I said, but it's research with real social scientists. We have a data set, again, we have reports, we have a survey instrument. So after long conversations with Maria, we figured out that that one needs to go other in the field research social science data model. And so I hope in giving those examples that in what Craig just showed you, that you're all thinking through. And if you're still feeling like, I'm still not sure, please sign up for one of those office hours with Maria, because she and I really did have to spend an hour talking through like the dynamics, because you've got to get your research instrument protocol or data in the right model. Because if I would have put it in the other model and I should have been in the social science, I also would have lost the capability of being able to publish 2018, 2019, 2021, all of that sort of stuff that I can do in the much more robust social science field research data model that I couldn't do in the other data model. So I'll pause there and just say, we know it's not a one size fits all, but again, the Design Safe team has done so much to make this as flexible as possible. But at this decision point that you're all at right now, wanting to really make sure that you do figure out, am I in the other or am I in the field research data model?
This is what I want to say. The field research social science data model has the same elements that the data documentation initiative so you are able to say what's your sample size, what's your sample size, what's your population, all of these terms that you are used to having. Let's say that also you have some engineering data, like measuring, I don't know, the heat waves or something. That would be engineering or weather data. So then you can put that as an engineering collection, or we can think about renaming that now that we have this heat thing, but we didn't know about it. So field research, meaning you are doing research in the field. It's by phone. Is it by a survey on the internet? Is it personal, going to the houses of people? Maybe it's in Arizona, so there's a geographical location, there's a universe, there's a space, no, maybe or not, because maybe you want it to be also in Seattle. Maybe you want to divide, the people in Seattle, Oregon now with the heat wave. So the data model is very flexible. Think about the research method. So do not think about it being heat or no, think about the research method. Think about its human subjects data. You have all of the DDI, data documentation initiative terminology, and think about this instance that you can describe, and how then you can do waves like you normally do, which in the case we put the mission, so waves, so you can subsequently publish. Today you gather for the summer of 2021. The next year you're going to add 2022. The next year you're going to add 2000, for Arizona or for Seattle. So this is what this field research allows you to do. So forget about the event. I just showed you there's a Canadian Cordillera Rock avalanche case histories. It's not about an event. It's about the history of many avalanches, in the Canadian West. It's not associated to a hurricane. It's not associated to, it's just a normal thing that happens there. There are avalanches all the time, like there's heat all the time. So we'll see how that works, but please, let's meet to decide. Okay, so I don't know how much time do I have for the last.
Yes, and thank you. And keep these questions coming. And we have time blocked off at the end for open discussion too. And so, Maria, we have about 20 minutes for you to talk about the 20 to 25, whatever you need for the open data, the DOIs, getting into
this will answer a lot of other questions. This will answer a lot of other questions that you have posed.
Thank you.
So, this comes all together, reusing data. That's the goal for any data publisher, meaning you. You want people to reuse your data.
Maria, I'm so sorry you're not in the full screen view so we can see your notes if you want to do that. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Let's see.
No.
Because I have to hold on. I have to start the show again. Sorry. Share screen. So share. Now I'm gonna do. Now?
Not perfect. Thank you, Maria.
Okay. So I'm sorry. I have to go back to. Okay. Reusing data. So think about, have you used someone else's data? What are your concerns when reusing data of others? What are your concerns for others reusing your data? This is everything that you have to think again beforehand in terms of publishing data, understanding the impact of data, understanding how to share your data so it's reused and it's marketed. And, you know, so what we have learned, I already told you, users want to access the data. Data gives context to the instruments and code and code books and vice versa. So the data is the meat here of your publication. Although, of course, people may not be able to share everything and they just can share certain parts of it, certain components, which are the protocols and the instruments, but there's always something missing there. So consider how to avoid restricting data at the research planning stages. And if data has to be restricted, publish metadata and documents, express availability, and eventually provide private access to the data. It takes work, but here we are to help you. So why do, Tim said, or Lori said, you know, publishing and sharing data, why we do it, all the scientific community, NSF, they want us to blah, 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 publish data to contribute to the scientific record. But I want to talk in this case about you. You can get credit for your work, you can promote your work, and you can consider in your own careers that data citation is as, I think, and it's going to be as important as paper citations and linking them together specifically. More and more, NSF is asking to see your other contributions, data sets. You can put in your, you know, you have to put in your NSF resume 5 recent publications, and then other contributions, you can put your data publications. They want to see your data publications. They want to see that with a DOI. So this also, I think that having to share your data in the future helps you organize and streamline your work. It really helps you think through, be more organized, and so that what Lori showed is not just, oh, I'm missing everything, I'm losing things. You are thinking how to organize your research from the beginning, from the planning stages. How am I going to share these? How am I going to provide evidence of my research from the beginning? So it helps you get organized. So that's one of the things that you have to think. You also have to think about how you're going to license your data. And here we will be briefly touching about these copyright questions that you were asking. So theoretically, in the United States, data per se doesn't have copyrights. Why? Because the United States copyright laws are prone for, emphasize creativity. So they don't think that a fact, you know, somebody answering a question or an image of something that is factual necessarily has copyrights. Yes, your protocol has copyrights. Your data report has intellectual property. The way you design your database or how you design your interviews, that, yes. And this is why we have created, and Craig showed you, this document collection that can be published with a precise DOI and citation. So this is why you use that category, because you say, I really want this to have a citation and I want to distribute it with a license that respects my rights. And this is why we have in DesignSafe 4 types of licenses available for you to publish data and products, works that have copyright, have rights, and you retain your rights. And that's the beauty of open data repositories and also open publications, that you return your rights. They are not, you know, kept by a journal or kept by somebody else. So you return your rights. So you will see we have different licenses available. We have different policies. We have a policy, but we have best practices for licenses, and there you can read how many licenses and what license to apply to each one, or to your, if you share software, if you share a copyrighted material, meaning something that you have the intellectual property rights, if you share just data, or if you share the notion of how you design your data set, okay? So you can look into that. But the open movement wants you to do the least data restrictions. So that's why we offer both licenses with attribution, meaning you ask, because these are handshakes, basically. It's very impossible to understand whether somebody is really, you know, citing you, is reusing your data and citing and acknowledging you. It's impossible to you know, discover that. But through a lot of training and a lot of consciousness, and also by training you as users, so that you know that when you reuse data of others, you also cite them in your reference section. And by asking people, you know, in the agreements of Design Safe, telling them, please use this citation, we provide this citation, give attribution to the authors, give thank you to the authors. This is the way to thank for their work, you know, attribute them for their work. So that's what we do. And we facilitate these licenses. But we really, these licenses have very few restrictions, almost no restrictions. So people can reuse your data, they can modify it, they can use it even for commercial purposes. They can just do whatever they want with the data as long as it's attributed. We also provide digital object identifiers. And this is a very important concept too. It's a unique alphanumeric string that permanently resolves to a landing page URL. This means that your data will always be findable. Always, always, always. When you put your DOI in a reference, people click there and it should always resolve to a visible landing page, permanent web location for data and or metadata. Metadata in the case that is very restricted access. And so you're not gonna be facilitating the data, but yes, the metadata about the data. So here, these questions, what are best practices in cases where local government also wish to host project data competing? I this here. You have to consider this. Are these other agencies giving you a DOI or not? That's one thing. If they're giving you a DOI and you will have 2 DOIs and 2 citations for the data, that is going to complicate your citation count. I always tell people then to make a selection, to make an informed decision. Sometimes there's no other possibility. I mean, yes, the more data that is published, the better. But then you will have to deal with managing 2 identical titles, but with different DOIs. Then you may have to change the title in one or the other, or make some type of clarification, because it's very hard to have 2 DOIs in places with the same content. But if, let's say that public agency says, please, and we have this case with a STEER, which is one of the groups that work with us. They publish their data through a visualization portal, Fulcrum, etc. But the citation, the one that they want you to use always, is the citation in Design Safe. So you have to think about this and manage. It's not competition really, it's about strategy. The more places where you can post your data, the better, but try to be consistent with the DOI. DOIs are attached to descriptions about your work. These descriptions are kept in a database, and this metadata is exposed through web protocols. So DataCite is our provider. They expose this metadata so that web engines can search, and you can put blah, blah, blah data set, and you get, you know, in Google or in any other say, browser or search engine, you can find on the web, not only in your repository, on the web, you can find the data. There are academic aggregators such as Google Search, Google Dataset Search, and I can show you here, for example, these from Elena Sutley. I think this is from, I'm sorry, John van der Linde, a longitudinal community resilience focused technical, blah, 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 was published in Design Safe. It already has a citation, and you can search, you can, you know, you click here and you get to the citation. So you can already see that your data has been cited by others. So this is how users find your data on the web using common browsers and Google data search. Good metadata, which is something that we stress, good descriptions, complete metadata, complete information, simple but complete with good keywords. It improves search. It makes it more visible. And so we also give, we have worked with Craig on saying how, read these instructions, what questions you should answer when you are adding your metadata. But it's not just a technical web engine work. It's also a work that you have to be your own marketer. You have to make some work. Include the data citation in your papers in the reference section, not only in text. Reference section, just like if you are citing any other paper. Present about your data at conference. We have heard from users that I say, well, how do you know about this data set that you're reusing? I heard about it in a conference. They trust more this peer review conference than just by finding it on the web. You understand? It has to do with a professional reassurance. Use social media also to announce your data publication with the DOI. Use your site as a faculty member, as a research center. Use your site page to include citations and news about your data, including the citation that we provide. Cross-referencing bumps your data ratings. That's why I say the more you can say, cite, oh, I did this in your institutional paper, in your, website, in your personal website, in your social media feed, the more you cite everything, the more you get. But be ambassadors for all data. And this is very appropriate having NOAA here, because a lot of our users in simulation, engineers, they use NOAA data. They use NOAA data in their simulations, for example, or in their field research. And they not always cite that data that they have reused in a data publication. So you have to be able to cite data that you are using that has been provided by other providers. So when you reuse data in your own project, maybe you integrate data, or maybe you use that data research, you use that a lot for geographical location. Beware, first of all, of the existing licenses and permissions of that data. Beware of existing copyrights for whatever, if it's a report, for example. Include the citation of data that you have reused in DesignSafe. We allow that. There's a related data section in the field research data model that allows you to point to data that you have reused. Also, publish synthetic data, data derived from. So if you have reused data from DesignSafe, and you write a paper, you can also see if within the restrictions or non-restrictions, you can publish, republish. We give you that possibility, the synthesized data. Let's say you have used a little piece of data from a social science project in your own project, in another project. You can cite, relate it, and publish it again. No problem. It will be a different thing. And reference the reuse of your data in your publications in DesignSafe. So in related work and related data, you always have to, cite the citation at the citation. For us, our work, we stimulate publications and reuse. We are doing some work to market your data. We count, citation count. We as you see, from 76 total data citations, some have to do with reuse, others are of original data, and I have a ton to count. So 2021 is just until April, but I have a ton to count. You see how many citations we have increased year by year. We are increasing the citations. These are data sets that are cited in journal publications from DesignSafe. We also, well, we have now our new feature of data use, which counts downloads and data views. And then we also do a lot of features. We do vignettes and we do awards, data awards once per year. We hope that in the next year, a social science data set will be awarded if they are promoted. It has to be data though. That's the issue. It has to be data. It has to have data. And we also do, when we see a reuse, we interview the team that has reused data, and we feature their publication in Design Safe. So we do quite a bit of work in order to have you promote your work. And here you have, if you want to talk to me, which I advise, being this your first publications, sign up for Publish Your Data event dedicated office hours. So there's just for you half-hour shifts that you can sign, or come to office hours when needed. But I guess this is better if you have a dedicated moment, or use the help ticket or email me at my email. So, questions?
Maria, thank you so much for that. I wondered if we could tackle, Olivia had two questions that I think are relevant to this session. And so maybe I was going to start with the first one, and then maybe you could start with the second. But Olivia's question was about templates, which I have to say, Olivia, this is something that has never occurred to me, and I love this question. Yeah. We do not currently have templates in terms of put your interview guide in this, put your IRB protocol in that format, but I love the idea and I love the motivation that was behind the question, which is, as you said, if we did that, the reuse, the uptake might improve. And so Olivia, if you or anyone else on this call has those kind of design capabilities and might want to work with the Converge team to make some of these templates for the various social science documents that are getting published up there, I hope you will reach out to me directly, and then we could work with Design Safe to see, if we could do something around that. But I love that question. And Olivia, I don't know, before we turn to your second question, is there anything else you wanted to say about that or suggest to us? Because I do think it's a wonderful question.
I don't think anything I want to add. I will say that part of my motivation also is the fact that I'm not design savvy. So it would be nice to have something like that accessible. And also I think it would make it easier to compare different IRB protocols and look at different ones, especially if maybe you're a student trying to look at these different materials for maybe using. So that might make it more pleasant to work through.
Nice.
I want to add something to this that is in general. So I saw the question about the templates. Design Safe doesn't have, you basically publish data. It's a self-publishing platform. So it's on the users, if you read the agreements, it's on the user's responsibility to publish your data however you want. If you visit with me and show me something, I might say this, that, the other. But I cannot tell you exactly how to publish your data. The only thing that I can tell you is that you want to portray the best of your work. So that's why we emphasize descriptions, that's why we emphasize data formats. That was another question, open data formats, so that they're compatible and interoperable, and there are best practices about that. That's why we tell people be careful about, for example, some people say, oh, I'm gonna upload 2,000 images. And I'm like, is it necessary? maybe if you curate your images and then tag your images, it's better than publishing 2000, because nobody's going to look at 2000 unless it is, you know, for a purpose, for a reason, because you can, you know, produce them on, I mean, you can analyze them on online. But if it's just to portray something in the field, maybe to be more careful about how you present your research. And that comes to the template. That was a question for Lori. We don't, you know, we emphasize the quality. There's a data quality section in the best practices that talks about how to curate your data, but we do not, how can I say, prescribe.
Absolutely. And we know that most of you, so for example, when we just put it from one of our projects that we were doing joint between the Hazard Center, we wanted to have, you know, the Hazard Center logo and the University of Colorado Boulder, and then it was in partnership with the US Geological Survey. So everything we put up there, we had those logos, like on our interview guides, our focus group guides, and so forth. And so I think that's something you're all gonna wanna think about as you're putting up your instruments, is are you gonna have, you know, your university or various university logos on the various instruments that you may or may not be putting up there eventually as PDFs. And the other thing, Jen had raised this earlier with me about the funding acknowledgement, since you all are supported through this Weather Ready funding award that was supported by NOAA and the National Science Foundation. And so that's something I know Jen's going to touch on later too, about you may want to add that to the end of your instrument. So we'll follow up on that. And then I know we're going to get Olivia's second question, which is also very relevant. And then I thought, Gina, since you're back, if you might pop in and answer the great question that Jen Henderson put in the chat as well, if you're willing to do that. But yeah, so Gina, do you want to go? Then we'll bounce back to Olivia.
Sure. And my team and I were actually in a group G chat saying, oh, what could we do with this? So a couple different things. And this is sort of where this partnership and your ideas are really helpful, so that we can continue to think about what we can do on the NOAA end to help sort of market your efforts that you have published data. So a few different things. NOAA does house its own library. There is the NOAA Central Library, sits at our headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland. And I feel terrible, I should know the answer to this, because I'm actually the NOAA research representative to the Library Advisory Committee. But we have many libraries. I'm sorry, I don't have the number. I think it's on the order of 10 to 12 libraries across the country. They are individually supported by different laboratories. For those of you in the Boulder area where the Natural Hazard Center is, there is a NOAA Boulder library out there. It's actually supported by 3 different federal agencies, for example. However, the NOAA Central Library is here to support a variety of efforts for NOAA, one of which is bibliometrics. So that, of course, is attached to publications of not just NOAA employees' publications from our research laboratories, but also publications that would fall out of NOAA-funded work. How do they do that? They do that by tracking your grant award numbers and the DOIs. So I'm hoping that this could spark a dialogue with the Central Library on, hey, we're really trying to nurture this collective community effort of you all publishing here, publishing in other places too. I mean, while we have this unique partnership with the Design Safe CI Converge community, you know, if you're publishing data in other databases as well that have a DOI, we could track that as well, just to be inclusive, of course. So I think this is something on our end. We will work with the library system to see how we can do that. I think, however, there was another question here and from Jen, and I think our team was interpreting this in a variety of ways in terms of the question. So I'm going to try to answer this, but Jen Henderson, if we're not answering your question, we welcome additional feedback. So I think one of the questions was, are we sort of encouraging this in our funding calls? In this last year, in fiscal year 21, the social science program in the Weather Program Office had our own funding call. We did not have time to, I will use the word modernize our data management section, because the legal section of our competition that language, we don't own it. Another part of NOAA owns it. So this represents a very cool opportunity for the social science community within NOAA to bring forward these modernized approaches to data management and ensure that perhaps NOAA is on parallel here with the National Science Foundation in terms of our requirements for data management. So I'm taking that as an action to bring that forward as part of NOAA's Social Science Committee to evaluate that. That's number one. Number two, our competitions, mine or others in the Weather Program Office, do have something that's attached to them called an information sheet. That information sheet, you're not legally bound to that information. What is in our call that would be on grants.gov, that very official call, that is the legal language you're bound to. When we provide an information sheet, it's sort of nice to know. We're encouraging it, but you're not legally bound to it. In that information sheet of our fiscal year 21 competition, we did encourage both the publication of data and also secondary use of data. That is to say that our funding calls do not require you to collect new data. There is so much we can learn by combining data sets, by looking at them, by asking a different research question of a data set. Maybe you went in with a particular hypothesis, but you have a new research question, you found something new, but that wasn't the scope of your grant. You'd like to look at it again with a new lens. We welcome that. So we are looking for unique opportunities. We don't have a funding call for the social science program in fiscal year 22, but we are looking for sort of modernized ways of doing that. I think perhaps one of the other questions was, could we market your data? And again, we'll work with the Central Library to see if we can collect that in an organized way. At the very least, with this partnership with the Weather Ready Research grants that you have, we can work, Lori, with all of you to highlight these efforts and provide a unique way to again, sort of highlight those efforts. So again, if that didn't answer your question, please let me know.
Nice, thank you, Gina. And that's right, as one starting point, all of the publication citations will be placed on the Natural Hazard Center and the Converge website from this call. So when everybody goes through the publication process, and so then everybody can see that Weather Ready research community all together as one starting place of making these linkages. So thank you. That was so helpful, Gina. And I think, Olivia, will you restate your second question now about this, which is a reuse question too, which I think dovetails beautifully with what Gina just said and Maria's question, or Maria's presentation, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't remember exactly how I phrased it, but I'm just curious about what efforts are currently being done or are in the works to basically get this data to be used by others. Maybe, I'm a graduate student, so how could a new graduate student, for example, come in and be encouraged to look at the existing data, look at the existing tools? What are strategies that are being implemented to encourage that type of engagement?
Well, so you can browse the data and search for data that has to do with social sciences or field research. And, then you will have, you have certain filters that you can apply and see if you can find, or also in the keywords that you can apply and find. I mean, I don't know exactly what your, you would be looking for, but there aren't that many right now. But I have to say that also in relation to ICPSR, because we looked into these, they don't have much natural disaster data there. So in Design Safe, you will also find natural disaster data that is engineering data, and the possibility, this is why you always want to, you would like to publish things that are kind of talk to each other. So, many of you have mentioned Hurricane Florence, Hurricane Ike, Hurricane whatever. So you can find their data that is in, about the houses, structures, etc., that are related to those same events. So you find things that talk to each other. Your social science data is going to talk to the engineering data. So that's one way of emphasizing. You can search for data in DesignSafe, look for data that is, in a way, is compatible with the themes that you are interested in. And then, as I said, we have data awards, we count reuse, so that should stimulate you to publish. I mean, we have lately, given awards to students, graduate students, or students that were getting their PhDs. And so that is a big push for them, because to have a feature that just talks about their research specifically, this, I haven't seen any other repository do this. Let me say that the data vignettes, the data reuse vignettes are the stories that are featured that, it's really something very unique to DesignSafe, and that should stimulate people to have the best publication possible so that they can share with others. And then I don't know if I answered that question. There are many tools also. The good thing also is that DesignSafe is not just a repository, as Tim said. So people can directly reuse your data without having to download anything. By getting an account on DesignSafe, you can use Jupyter notebooks, visualizations, etc. So it's not just a place where you just store your data. You can actively use the data there for analysis. So that's another stimuli. We don't have a quota in terms of the amount of data that you can publish. And that is also important, because some repositories, most repositories, only allow a minimum amount of data to be published. So there are tools for you to upload, download data that is large, if that's your case. I don't know if I have another stimuli.
Maria, can I just follow?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Can I just follow up on something real quick? So yeah, I think some of the efforts that are already ongoing are good. I think part of what I was getting at is that I came to know about DesignSafe through this publication opportunity. So as someone who has something to publish, I'm now aware, I'm involved in DesignSafe, but I'm kind of curious about those who don't have something to publish. How are they going to become aware of everything that DesignSafe has to offer? How are they going to be motivated to engage? What are some efforts? Are there maybe funding opportunities for students or for people to use existing data? Are there outreach efforts ongoing? I think I saw in the chat thinking about conferences and ways we can use conference sessions to promote DesignSafe to people who don't know and who would just use the content that's there.
That is, well, so DesignSafe has an education and outreach section that is led by Dr. Scott Brandenburg. I think that Lori Peak does a lot of outreach herself. We are very much present, not this year, I am afraid, Lori, in the natural hazards workshop, so that we can, but you do that work for us, but we should be there, especially for testing next year, maybe again. So we do a lot of outreach. There are undergrad programs, there are, internships available. There, in the DesignSafe website has all these, possibilities for engagement. We do search engine optimization to push our data products out through the web so that people find easily things without necessarily knowing that it's DesignSafe, but finding DesignSafe. So we have training sessions. We have, so for example, each of the persons that get a data award, they also do a webinar. I mean, we are trying to reach a lot of the community. The social science community, I think, is a new community, and there's more work to be done.
And Maria, I just wanted to say and Olivia, I love these questions. And Maria, you have done so much for helping us to think about, like that list you gave us, put it out on social media,
Yeah.
cited in your and so forth. But I think what, Olivia, what I love about this question that you're asking is, okay, once the data's up there, once the instruments are up there, and this is where, again, we need to tip the hat to Gina and the NOAA team, because in the 35 years of the Quick Response Research Program at the Natural Hazards Center, all 35 of those years, every funding call we have ever done, everything we've ever funded has been about collecting new data. This is literally the first time in the history of our program that there was a special call that was about publishing data, publishing instruments. And now, Olivia, I think you are pushing us to the next level, which is, what if there's a funding call that's about, okay, now we have 30 social science data sets that are up there, let's use them. Let's reuse them and ask new and different questions. And that's where design safe tracking data reuse and looking at how researchers are reusing data is so powerful. And so I think, Olivia, you're helping us to connect sort of, this is a new frontier that we're moving into right now, as you said, with helping to capacitate the community in terms of publishing the instruments, protocols, data. And then the next level is, how do we encourage that data reuse? And that's something, again, tipping the hat to NOAA. Not only have we talked about, what is that possibility with the data reuse, but what about when we get enough instruments that are up there, can we then build a meta instrument that is used in tornadoes to collect social science data, that's used in hurricanes, that's used in different kinds of ways? So Olivia, I think it is a wonderful question, and pushing us into these new frontiers is fantastic. And Gina, do you want to add on to that? And then I'm going to pick up with the checklist for next steps with Jen. So Gina, over to you.
Yeah, one additional comment is, one of the reasons for really wanting to encourage data publication, and I see this as a process, right? Because from NOAA's perspective, we have really big questions that Congress asks us that we don't have data to answer, right? So we're depending again on these partnerships. We can't collect all that data. And I just feel so thankful that this community exists and that you all are willing to publish your data, to first of all, to get credit for that, to share the instruments so that we have context for that data, but open it up to help answer really tough questions. And what I mean by that is, again, it goes back to the opening remarks about measuring our mission, program change impacts. We have an office at our headquarters level called the Performance, Risk, and Social Science Office. It houses the NOAA chief economist. They try to do economic valuation for NOAA's products and services. But if we don't have access to good data, we can't answer these really tough questions. So I say that because I see NOAA as a customer of the data you're publishing. It may not be a one-to-one right now for the type of data you're publishing to the types of questions we get, but we have to build a community of data. We have to build that as a resource, right? That we've got to start somewhere. But I think one of the things we could do as an action item is, in a few more months, when you're more comfortable, when we're a little bit more through the process of publishing data, and maybe when it's publicly ready for consumption, if you will, I think we could do a NOAA webinar. Again, through our central library. They offer a webinar series. It also is public, but it very much targets our NOAA audience, and start sharing this effort, start communicating about what data is available. And we can do a push inside NOAA to highlight this to other federal agencies that we know may not also have access to data and would love this as a community resource. So to the extent that we can be in partnership to help market, we will do what we can.
And Gina, thank you for that. And Tim put in the chat, which is just, again, a huge tip of the hat to Design Safe for all that they do. As Maria said, the last couple of years, Design Safe has had a huge presence at the Natural Hazards Workshop that has helped with this kind of socialization. And Tim had said in the chat just how willing they would be to, as we're coming back to in-person meetings, doing those kinds of webinars and so forth. And Tim, I don't know if you wanted to pick up on what Gina just shared and say more.
Sure. You know, really the face-to-face is where we really make the deepest connections with people and really can improve upon everything that we're doing for you. Our job is to support your research. That's it. NSF funds us to do that. You need to use our supercomputers. You need access to anything data-wise, you know, need us to improve something. We're already paid to do that. So please utilize that. As I mentioned, over 6,000 people already have, you know, at least logged in and done some work. But we could support a whole lot more. And we love to visit, learn what you're doing, and it doesn't have to be at a big conference or something. We go to those. We love to see you. But if you're having some kind of event at your institution, give us a call. You know, shoot us an email, and I can do 15 minutes. That's fine. You know, if you got an hour, great. But the big thing that we gain value from is those lunch conversations, those dinner conversations, and that's where the ideas flow, and you can be more direct. We will do individual meetings with research groups. If you have some kind of event like that, we can schedule time to meet with individual research groups, spend an extra day at your institution after you've held an event and meet with your people, that kind of thing. Happy to do any of those kind of outreach activities. It might be me, it might be Maria, it might be Ellen, it might be some of our other staff. We have enough people to do this. So yeah, we're here for you. And UT just released us again, Maria. We're free. We could travel.
Tim, thank you very much for that. And I'm just reminded too that every time that a social scientist has asked a question that the capability wasn't there, it just feels like, I know on the design safety end, it may not feel like this, but it feels like just so quick how responsive the design safe team has been to every question. And as you said, how important these conversations are. And so just thank you. And we now have 18 minutes left in this session. And Jen and I have just a little bit of housekeeping that we wanted to do while we're all together. And so I'm gonna just really quickly share my screen with that checklist that I sent around last night to everyone, and I'll send a follow-up email as well. But just wanted to sort of let you know, so with this award, again, this award is very different than anything we've done through our awards programs before at the Hazard Center, because typically we're asking for a final report 3 months after the data collection, et cetera. And so what we decided on for the output of this particular award, because it really is a training and mentoring award, as much as it's an award that's also going to, hopefully for all of you, culminate in that permanent digital object identifier, that publication that Maria and Craig have been demonstrating for us today. And so just briefly with this checklist, I hope you'll each walk through it really carefully. And we know that some of you are working individually, some of you are working in teams, and so you may delegate some of these things, but just wanted to sort of let you know some of these initial activities that we're asking you to do. For example, there's a 30-minute webinar that Design Safe did in partnership with Converge a couple of months ago that featured 3 of our data ambassadors, Lauren Clay being one, who's on the call today. And so we're asking you to watch that webinar, again, for some background and to hear from people who've already gone through this process. We have some other things here, just looking at all of those amazing materials that Tim and Maria and Craig have pointed to today. I can't say enough about Design Safe and all that they've done with videos, comprehensive user guides. All of these sorts of things are already available to you to help to guide you through this process. And so a lot of what's on here is just linking out to some of those materials, making sure you know you have access to them and you've taken a look. And so that's sort of the first part of the checklist. And then as we move into the second part of the checklist, is you all now are geared up, getting ready to do your publication of your instrument or data and so forth. What we're going to ask that you do is, again, you go through the design safe guidelines that are already available and are so helpful, that you look at the projects that have already been published by social scientists, because I think it's just going to give you a sense of how long should my project description be? How does my project description differ from my description of my instrument or my data that I'm going to publish? And so that's where the publications by the data ambassadors, I think, are really, really going to be helpful. So please check out those exemplars. And then you can see, just making sure a member of all of the funded teams attend this workshop and training session today. And so you can all mark that off on your check sheet. And then you can see that we put in Maria's office hours sign up is right there in the checklist. So we hope you all will sign up for that 30-minute session, because it is just absolutely invaluable to get to spend one-on-one time with Maria. And then you can see the big drum roll, please. Once you are done with your going through the publication process with Design Safe, then we just ask that you put your publication citation here, including the final DOI that you receive. And that's what we're going to put up on the Natural Hazard Center and the Converge websites to really promote your work, and obviously to share and uplift with NOAA and through all the mechanisms that Design Safe has already crafted so carefully. And then you can see what I did is I just took all of the great advice from Maria that she shared today about how to market your work, and that's all in the checklist. So once you've got that permanent DOI, these are all the ideas that Maria shared with us today, and you can just go through that. And then one other thing that we ask, and this gets at our conversation we were just having, is that you then, as Tim was saying, you are the best ambassadors for this platform to help get the word out, because you've gone through the process, you know how it works. And so we just ask that you please share this with a class, a group, an organization, because that's how the webs of connection will continue to be built. And then just finally, this is all the deadline that we put on the award that you all received is October 8th, 2021 for returning this checklist to Jennifer. And so that's the detailed walkthrough. And then Jen, I'm going to turn this to you in just a second, but then just the last thing I wanted to say there about that was why are we doing all of this, and why are we asking you to go through this checklist and to go through this process? And these are some of the things that we talked at length with NOAA and with the Design Safe team about. Again, it's about, so it's through becoming an ambassador in the way that you're becoming through going through this training program, publishing your own information, you're going to be able to help advance social science and interdisciplinary research by helping others as you learn, and you're going to help others to find and curate their data, to share their legacy data sets, as well as new data and instruments, helping to coordinate with other researchers. So we already heard Eric Best and Tara making connections at the beginning here. Also encouraging more replication and less duplication of effort. And then, as Maria said, this is about helping others and advancing our field, but it's also about making sure that you all get the credit that is due to you because of the extraordinary research that you all have been doing. And so thank you for listening to that. And now I am going to turn this over to the wondrous Jennifer Tobin, who, speaking of giving credit where credit is due, Jen sent in on one meeting with the NOAA team, sort of hearing this vision for the Weather Ready research community. And then she went away, and sort of a day later, she comes back with the full draft of that call that you all responded to and were funded through. And so Jen, as always, a deep bow of gratitude to you, and over to you.
Thank you, Lori, so much. And I want to start by saying how much I love Gina's background, her wallpaper. I've been staring at it the entire time. It's beautiful. I love it. But thank you all so much for being here. It's been so great to listen to everybody talk about this. And just to have all this enthusiasm around Design Safe and publication of data is just so wonderful, which is what inspired this call in the first place. So let me just share my screen real quick. And I know Lori already went over, let me push this up here. Lori already went over a lot of the details. Can you see my screen?
It's perfect, Jen.
Okay. Great. So I just want to cover a couple of those details in more detail. So first, after today's webinar, you will have already done most of the things in that checklist, which is great. And I know we sent the checklist to you as a PDF, and David had a great question to me in the chat box, which is, I can't fill in the PDF. Do I need to write in the PDF? What would you like to do with it? So if you would like, we can actually resend that as a Word document. So it's easier to just type into the document and then you can resend it to us that way. So let's make that an action item, Lori, to resend it as a Word document. Or if you have a PDF version that allows you to edit directly into the PDF, you can do that as well. So now after this webinar, we hope that you will start preparing your own data or your protocols or your research instruments and get those ready for curation. And again, just as the wonderful Dr. Maria Estevez said, please make an appointment with her through that link, which is on the screen right now. And she will help you walk you through how to publish everything, any questions you have, what choices to make, depending on which data you have or research instrument. And then after you've published your work, of course, as you go through that long checklist that Lori has sent to everybody, at the end, you want to include the full citation once you've received your DOI. So that full citation will include the DOI at the end, because that's what we'll end up publishing on the Natural Hazards Center website. And that's what will help to distribute that data set or those protocols so that we can share it with our larger community. And if you have any questions throughout your process, please feel free to email us. Email me directly if you want, or email has.research.awards@colorado.edu. And then just the final deadline for resubmitting or submitting that award checklist to us is October 8th, 2021. So please, if you have it sooner, if you're already finished with the process and you just want to move on, feel free to send it my way, or you can send it to me by October 8th. And then finally, if you haven't started processing your documents for getting paid from this award, please go ahead and do that from that original award email that I sent to you that has those individual links for uploading your tax documents and uploading your award agreement. If you haven't done that already, that will delay your payment. And there is a few weeks of processing time from CU Boulder to getting those award payments to you. So the sooner you do that, the sooner we can begin processing your awards. If you're waiting on an award and you have already submitted all of your documents, please also email me and let me know so I can help push that through or kind of check on where it is in the CU processing timeline. Okay, so that's all I have. And I think that we open it up to questions right now for the rest of our 7 minutes that we have together.
Nice. Thank you, Jen.
I just want to add something very brief. When you are going to schedule an appointment with me or any Design Safe, it's not just what I can tell you, but it's what you can tell us, because this is new to us also. So how you tell us what to improve, what to change, and we also need to know more about your research in order to help you better represent your work. So that's what I want to say. It's not just, oh, how can I help you? No, how can you help us?
Thank you, Maria. And Jen, thank you for that overview. And to Jen's point about early submissions, always welcome. We should give credit that Ram was the first one to submit his publication template. And so I feel like there should be a little thanks to Ram and maybe a little, we'll have to have some kind of prize for whoever the first one is to get your permanent DOI going through this process. We'll have to figure out what that prize may be. It may be like a t-shirt or something. So yeah, and did I see, did anybody have, oh, Dave, thank you for the kind words to Maria and the Design Safe team and to Emma. Does anybody have any closing questions you want to put out there before we hear from Gina with a few last words? Oh, and Dave said we should definitely plug the Disaster Dash and the workshop. If you're not signed up yet for the Natural Hazards Workshop or the researchers meeting, there's still time. It's July 11th through 14th and 14th through 15th. And we hope if you can, you'll also join us for the Bill Anderson Fund Disaster Dash. So thank you.
And donate to our team, Natural Hazard Center, lightning fast.
Nice. Oh, thank you everyone very much. And I know that 3 hours is a long time to be on Zoom, especially after 16 or more months of being on Zoom. And so everyone, just please know how grateful we are for your time and your attention and your scholarship and your willingness to share your scholarship with others. We are so, so grateful. We are just so grateful to Design Safe that inspires us endlessly. And so Maria and Tim and Craig, thank you for being with us today. And to Castle and Mickey and to Gina, thank you for the support that made all of this possible. And so I'm gonna bounce over to Gina if she has any final closing comments she wants to share before we wrap up today.
I just have to echo everyone. I can't thank you all enough. Again, the federal agencies are here to support you, and NOAA is here to support a variety of services, one of which, sitting in NOAA Research, is to support the academic community. We often do that through grants. But, thinking strategically about our challenges and yours, when we learned about Design Safe, Lori was one of our speakers at that workshop I talked about. It was goosebumps. It was like, wow, this is all happening all at the right time. And I don't think I realized the importance of our call, that we were the first call that wasn't to collect new research, but to publish. So that our team and I were talking about that, going, wow, like we've really set a trend. This is very exciting to be among the first and to have this amazing cohort of people that are willing to do this first with us is amazing in the context of a weather ready research program. So again, I can't thank you enough. And we take that checklist to heart. We may not be the ones publishing the data, but we do take those aspects to heart of, we need to market your data. And I promise you that is at the top of our list. We don't want this to be for naught, right? We want this to be useful. When we think about economic valuation in NOAA on anything we do, whether it be research, data, a watcher warning, weather watcher warning, the thing needs to be used in order for it to have value. So I promise you, we will be finding unique ways to build metadata of your publication, your data publications in Design Safe, be it elsewhere, to encourage our physical scientists that they're often looking for ways to do interdisciplinary research, but they don't know where to go and they'd like to play with some data. And you all are creating a space for new innovation, for new ways of thinking, for discovering new knowledge. And it gives me goosebumps. I'm so excited and thrilled to be part of this. Thank you for applying and giving us this opportunity. As much as perhaps we provided the funding, maybe we wouldn't get any applicants to it. That was one concern we had. We didn't think so, but there was always a chance. Just like when you plan to do disaster research, or I should say hazard research, and then no hazards happen, that can happen. Unlikely, but it can happen. And so I'm just so thankful for this opportunity to have met all of you today. Again, my apologies for needing to step out for a little while. Thank you for allowing me to jump right back in. And I just thank you, Lori, Jen, and Olivia, Maria, all of you, all the super users of all of this. I'm so thrilled. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, and we will continue to market the value of these efforts. So back to you, Lori.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you so much for those words. And you're already being quoted and being placed on a bulletin board, maybe a t-shirt in the future that we give as the prize. And so thank you for those words. And just in our last minute, we wanted to ask if everyone, would you please take to the chat, and will you please put one word in the chat that captures how you are feeling right now. So one word in the chat that captures how you are feeling right now. Beautiful. And thank you so much, everyone. And two last reminders before we go. If you are attending the Natural Hazards Workshop, there's going to be a special panel that's led by NOAA. And so we hope you will check that out. And also, as Castle put in the chat, there is a special AMS session that's really going to lead forth what's happening here. And so we'll be sharing the chat and the resources and some other materials with you after this. But for now, it is the top of the hour and we start on time and end on time around here. So I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day. And thank you so much for being here with us today. So thank you, everyone. Bye. Go do good things.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. That was awesome. Thank you
so much. This was lovely. It just was awesome.
Oh, I mean, it was amazing. And I'm just going to stop the recording if I
I just
can get
realized,
my...
I'm like, I think we're hot.